Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys Back to the Future 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review video. Now today I'm super excited to be taking a look at the 2.0 version of Marty from the first film and Einstein. Now this guy, as well as Doc from Back to the Future 1, were shown in a couple of Japanese magazine scans. I was one that said, no, Hot Toys are never going to do that. That's something that maybe back in the day they would have. But boy am I glad that I was wrong, because this guy looks to be an improvement over the first release. Not only that, but between announcement and release, it was only 3 weeks. That is an incredibly quick turnaround, and you pretty much never see Hot Toys doing that. Now, I got mine from toyswonderland.com, but do bear in mind the Hong Kong batch for this guy was super tiny and limited, so if you do want him, now's the time. They do have 12-month installment plans and an awesome reward system if you do like paying off your collectibles over time and using coupons. What we are going to do now though is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. Here of course we have the box art for Marty and Einstein. Now back in the day I actually reviewed the 1.0 version of Marty on the channel, but do bear in mind I'd only just started making videos, so the quality isn't fantastic. Do yourself a favor, don't watch that video. I'll be doing all of the requisite comparisons in this video. It's worth noting though, the box art is completely different here. This time we have that classic poster style image of Marty stepping out of the DeLorean, taking a look at his watch. You do have the artist's signature in the bottom right hand corner. I really like this artwork, it looks awesome. The one thing that is leaving me scratching my head here though is he's currently holding up his sunglasses. They are literally showcasing a pose on the front of the box that you cannot pull off with the figure because he doesn't come with said glasses. A little bit cheeky, Hot Toys. Also, is it just me or is the back half of the DeLorean just missing? It should extend back behind him, but it looks to be cut off. I guess you could say it's traveling back or forward in time, and that's where the other half is. But either way, I was wondering where it went. On the side, we do have a Back to the Future logo with a hover-converted DeLorean, so not technically from the first film, a Back to the Future logo on the bottom with an image of the flux capacitor, as well as a pop art style silhouette image of Marty and Doc. Now, the only annoying thing about Marty being available now is that we do have to wait a year for Doc Brown to release, but at the very least we are getting a Doc from the first film. Once again, we have an image of the hover-converted DeLorean. Not sure if Hot Toys know, that's from Back to the Future 2. I guess you could say it's based off the end scene of Back to the Future 1, but nevertheless, it's a little bit out of place here. Now let's take a look at Marty himself. Honestly, it is largely the same as the original figure. You are missing out on those sunglasses like I just said, and you are missing out on the guitar if you had the special edition version the first time around. I personally didn't, so I am still missing out on the guitar. Either way, here we have Marty himself. First in-hand impressions are very positive. I'm liking the way he looks and the way he feels in hand. Now, of course, he does come with one tray, so what we are going to do now is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have all of the bits and pieces that come with Marty. Now, starting off with the display base first, I never thought in my wildest dreams that in 2021, this would be a display base that I'd get to see again. But here we are, Back to the Future up on top, Marty McFly on the front, and a waist clamp. Hot Toys have done away with these for a while now, and I think for good reason. I personally would have preferred a crotch grabber. Now, the one key new accessory here that made a lot of people consider selling their original figure and picking up this set is Einstein. Now, technically you could say that this is a 2-pack, but this guy is not so much a figure as much as he is a static statue type piece. At the very least, the pose is great. He's sitting down, you can have him on the floor or in the DeLorean. The hair is really nicely sculpted. There's a ton of texture here, and the paint applications are gorgeous. You've got highlights, you've got shadows, you've got detail where it needs to be, and then we get to the face. It looks exactly like Einstein looked in the movie. I'm really liking this dog. However, there is this one unsightly seam. Some people thought it was for the stopwatch to go around his neck that comes with dock. That could potentially be a thing, but I think it's more for the slight amount of articulation you get out of it, forward and back, and also side to side. Either way, even though there is this seam here, which we'll address again in the pros and cons segment, I'm still super glad that we're getting Einstein. Now, the rest of the accessories are identical to the original Marty. The skateboard is awesome. I love the texture here, I love the print up on top, he's got the real Phillips head screws connecting the wheels to the bottom, and you do have some detail on the underside. Plus, the wheels are actually dirty. That's something that honestly a lot of companies would miss, but not Hot Toys. You also get the backpack. This is a real working backpack, as you'd expect. There is some pleather on the bottom, so it could potentially degrade over time, but this is identical to the one that I got with my original Marty, and I've had no issues whatsoever with that one. You also get his really small calculator watch. Unfortunately, there's nothing on the screen, but it is painted in a nice high gloss black. You also get his camcorder. This thing was really nicely sculpted and painted originally, and it is here too as well. There's a ton of texture on the various grips, it does have the various focal distances printed on the little lens there, and all of the buttons are nicely painted. This thing is and was awesome. You also get this, which is his tape deck and a pair of headphones. Now, it is on a wire, so you can sort of arrange it how you like. There is also a little bit of detail on the inside with a translucent opening there. Unfortunately, you can't actually open it and remove any tapes, but I do like how well they've sculpted it, and they've also included a little bit of detail there. Lastly, for the accessories, you also get this, which is of course the newspaper that says "Save the Clock Tower" and the little note that Jennifer left him on the back there with her phone number. This was included once again with the first version, but I'm glad we've gotten it here. You also get a full array of hands. They are nicely sculpted, they are exactly the same as the 1.0, but these are slightly better painted. What we are going to do now, though, is get Marty himself out here and take a closer look. Here we have them standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And these two look awesome standing, or in Einstein's case, sitting side by side. I am so happy that Hot Toys decided to throw him in the box, and also release Marty so soon after the announcement. That was a huge surprise. As for Marty himself, at first glance he appears to be almost exactly the same as the 1.0. But don't be fooled, looks can be deceiving. There is a lot that is new here. More on that in just a second. Now, if you own the original, I think the number one question on your mind is going to be, do I sell it and get this one? Hopefully, we will be able to unpack that and give you a definitive answer by the end of the video, but for now, I'm not entirely sure. Yes, this one brings a lot of awesome to the table, including the fantastic head sculpt, but the original is no slouch either. He comes with some great accessories that this one simply misses out on. What we are going to do now, though, is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. Here we have him up close and personal. Now, you won't be able to tell until we do the proper side-by-side comparison in just a second, but there is actually a lot that's new here. I was under the impression that it was a 99.95% reuse and they just changed the head sculpt, but that's totally not the case. Yes, we did get a brand new sculpt, but they've made subtle changes here. Number one, the skin tone of the body is a hell of a lot lighter. The original one was slightly too tan. Back in the day, Hot Toys were making figures a little bit more tan than they ought to be. This one is a much more accurate, lighter skin tone. They've also made adjustments to the outfit material choice and the way it hugs the body. It just looks overall more realistic. The life preserver is a darker orange. They still have maintained the wire going down the front, but it is a little bit more bulky. It kind of looks more goofy, which in my opinion is far more accurate to the film. And then we have the pièce de résistance, this Marty McFly head sculpt. I think this is a huge upgrade over the 1.0. Now, some people were already saying it's not great, I don't see the likeness there, it looks nothing like him. Well, to those people, I'd say wait till you get it in hand and then you can judge, because in my opinion, this is one of the strongest Michael J. Fox head sculpts that we've seen to date. Is it the best one? No, I think the Back to the Future Marty is still the best, but it is darn near close. The expression, the texture and paint applications on the skin, and the hair, it all looks fantastic. Now, just like the first one, his ears are covered over, so even if you do have the glasses, you can't have him properly wearing them, which is a darn shame. I would have liked potentially a second head sculpt so you could have had the glasses sitting on there properly, but then we're getting into a whole nother category of figure with multiple head sculpts, etc. They wanted to keep it simple, so I do understand what they were going for. Now, as for the outfit, I did mention there are some changes here. It won't be evident until we see the original side by side, but nevertheless, this outfit still looks really good. There's a lining to the inside of the jacket, he has multiple layers with his checkered shirt and his red one underneath, and it even has that lining on the underside of the sleeves that are nicely rolled up. He also has his little suspenders here holding up his jeans. Now, I had an issue with the jeans on my first Marty. They were starting to get a little bit fuzzy and starting to decay, if you will, over time. They have since stopped and not gotten any worse, but these feel like a much more modern style of 1/6 scale jean. I don't think you're going to have that issue. They fit the body a little bit better and they are a lot softer. As for the shoes, these are identical. No changes in the sculpt. There might be a little bit more wash over the top, but either way they look exactly the same all the way down to the red piece on the back. I'm pretty sure these shoes are supposed to be Adidas. Either way, so far, I'm liking this figure a lot more than I was expecting to. I thought it would be, as I said, exactly the same with some subtle changes, but honestly, this guy is a huge improvement. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have both Back to the Future 1 Martys standing together. And honestly, I'm seeing a bigger difference here than I thought I was going to. You will notice that a lot more when we zoom in just a second. But yeah, a lot has changed. And in my opinion, for the better. I loved the original back in the day. It was a great figure. But trust me, when you get this new one in hand, I highly doubt you're going to look at your original Marty the same way. The new one is just so much better. The body appears to be almost identical, but something is making the new one ever so slightly taller, and I can't figure out quite what it is. But other than that, they are pretty much the exact same body underneath. There is, though, a lot of new stuff here with the outfit, which again we'll address when we zoom in. Next up, here we have Back to the Future 2 Marty. This one actually goes the other way, where the Back to the Future 2 figure is slightly taller once again. It could be because the air mags are giving him a slight height boost, but other than that, he is pretty much the same underlying body once again. I do personally prefer the Back to the Future 2 Marty, although this new one is very, very close to winning me over and becoming my new favourite. Now I know this is technically the wrong dock to display with this Marty, but until the Back to the Future 1 version comes out, these two are going to be displayed in close proximity to one another. I love the way these two look together, even though it's not super accurate. This should give you an idea, because I assume Doc will be the same height. He also has the exact same head sculpt as this one, so this should give you a rough indication as to how Marty and Doc will look standing together. Plus, you can see how Einstein stacks up both alongside Marty and alongside Doc. Now for a much closer up comparison, here we have the original on the left and the brand new one on the right. And as you can see, the difference is night and day. I don't know why people were so up in arms about the new one. I mean, the original, in my honest opinion, looks nothing like Michael J. Fox. I've tried different poses to bring out the likeness, but I just can't see it. The head's too narrow, it's also slightly too long, and the expression just doesn't work for me. Whereas the new one is absolutely him. I see it from pretty much every angle. I am curious which you prefer though. Do let me know down in the comments below. As for the outfit, it is largely the same, but they have changed the materials that they've used here. Number one, the jacket is a much bluer color. There's a little bit more texture in the original, and it fits the body a lot better on the new one. The red shirt underneath is slightly more vibrant. The badges are rearranged, which I think is more movie accurate, and then the life preserver is a darker color and it's slightly more bulky. They've also integrated the stitching to match the color of the life preserver itself a hell of a lot better, whereas the original you could very clearly see it. Then we come down to the jeans. The color is completely different, but you can see what I was talking about earlier. The original was getting fuzzy and a little bit nasty, whereas the new one I don't think will have that same issue. It looks to be a lot more of a sturdy material. Lastly, the shoes. As I said, the sculpt is exactly the same. It's just potentially the paint applications which are a little bit crisper. Overall though, no matter which version of Marty you have, they are both still great companion pieces for Doc and the DeLorean, but in my opinion, if you have the original, now might honestly be a good time to sell and trade up to this guy. Next up, here we have Marty from the second film. Now this is still my favorite all-time Michael J. Fox 1/6 scale head sculpt. I think it's the best likeness, it's really well sculpted, it's really well painted. But that being said, the skin tone is slightly inaccurate. It is an older Hot Toys figure. They were going a little bit more tan, so you can see a difference in skin tone, but overall, these two are now my favorite Marty figures in the collection. Just going over articulation on Marty. Now bear in mind this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I'm willing to go. Now starting off at the head sculpt, it is on a separate neck, so you do get a fairly decent range of motion forward and back, swivel and pivot side to side. The arms themselves will go the full way up, they will swivel forward and back, butterfly joint at the shoulder, a double bend at the elbow, and a swivel at the bicep, plus a regular 1/6 scale wrist peg. As for the torso, you have crunch forward and back, swivel and pivot side to side. The legs will go the full way forward, same with going out, swivel at the thigh, a double bend at the knee, and lastly a ball joint for the ankle. Just going over the 3 cool and 3 annoying things with Marty McFly. The first annoying thing is this display base. Some people might like how classic and simple the oval display base is, but for me I much prefer the modern style. This is Doc's base from Back to the Future 2. If you are going to have multiple different versions of Doc and Marty, especially if you're going to be releasing them in 2021 and 2022, you want all the bases to match. You already had this modern style for Back to the Future 2, this is absolutely what they should have gone with. But now for Back to the Future 1, we have this style, for 2 we have this one, and then for 3 we have the rectangular bases. So even though they're all part of the same line, they're all going to have different bases. The second annoying thing, and while it's not as big of a deal as I thought it was going to be, the seam for Einstein's neck is very, very noticeable. Now some people have said it's so you can remove the head and put the stopwatch around his neck, but let's be honest, even if you couldn't remove the head, you could very easily still have it sitting on the neck there, because there's a natural stopping point right about here. It would still sit and drape very nicely. It could be because they wanted a little bit of swivel side to side for his head, but I personally would have forfeited that very small amount of articulation to have a fully seamless Einstein. The third annoying thing is that they didn't include these glasses. I mean, come on Hot Toys, I totally get it. You don't want to include the guitar because that was a special edition bonus the last time around, but these glasses are kind of part of his look, especially when you have an image of him holding these up on the front of the box. They're just taunting us at that point. These absolutely should have been included in the box. The first cool thing about Marty, and I know we've already discussed this, but it's the way they made subtle changes to the outfit to get it to lay and fit better on the body. This might technically be a partial reissue of the original, but they didn't just use the exact same patterns here. They've changed the material, they've changed the way it fits on the body, and in my opinion, it looks a whole lot better. The second cool thing, and it is once again a very subtle change, but here we have the hand on the left from the original Marty and the new one on the right. While the sculpt is identical, you can very clearly see a massive difference in the skin tone, texture, and paint applications. The new one looks a hell of a lot more realistic, so I personally am really happy they made this change. The third cool thing is that we are getting Einstein. Now I know I was complaining about the seam just a second ago, and it's not the biggest deal in the world for me personally. I know it bothers some people, but the very fact we are getting a pre-posed sitting down Einstein that we can either have in the DeLorean or sitting next to Doc and Marty, in my opinion, is a huge bonus. Just wrapping up on the 2.0 version of Marty McFly and Einstein. I personally am super happy with this set. I didn't really know what I was expecting to get out of it, but it met and exceeded my expectations. Number one, we'll talk about Marty first. The body is largely the same, but the way they've painted the forearms and the hands, plus of course the head sculpt, is a huge improvement. It's a lot more natural, it looks more realistic, I love the skin texture here, and then the head sculpt itself is just leaps and bounds better than the 1.0. The 1.0 has its fans, and I totally get that, but I have no reason to lie to you. I paid for both, I have both in my collection, the original isn't going anywhere. There's straight up no reason whatsoever for me to prefer one over the other, except for the fact that it's just simply better. It's a better likeness. As I said though, I am curious what you think. Do let me know which is your favorite down below. Overall, Marty is fantastic. He is missing some key accessories in the guitar and the sunglasses, but they also made a ton of changes to the outfit. The colors, the material choice, and then the vest looks way better. So I think they more than made up for it, and you also get Einstein. An entirely separate character. You can pose him up alongside Doc or Marty in or outside the DeLorean. It's not often that we get another character like Einstein in a miniature statue format to have alongside our main characters, so I'm super glad that Hot Toys decided to do this. And when you get Doc, you'll have the stopwatch to put around Einstein's neck, so you do have a little bit of interactivity there. Overall, at the end of the day, yes, I would recommend picking up this guy. There is enough new and improved here to warrant potentially selling your first one and getting this guy, just simply for the fact that they've made a ton of changes. Now, I got mine from toyswonderland.com. I have included the link down in the description below, and they do have 12-month installment plans if you are a fan of paying off your figures over time. Also, while you are down there, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.